Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy B, and today we have some special guesterinos with us. 2 out of 5 individuals, so we got 40% of the pie here on attendees who were a part of the roundtable meeting recent issues. Now, this apparently was the second player to dev meeting, and this one apparently was a lot different than the first go around. Now, the 2 people we have joining us today to also share their thoughts, their feedback, their opinions, expanding a little bit on each of the points that were brought up in the roundtable meeting, such as the bastions, the decorations, the map design, etc. We have is going to be Platypus from, where is it again? What kingdom, Plat?
RK.
Okay, thank you. Yes, 3. You literally just said that before I started. And then we got Doom, R5 of 110 with ROG. So 2 kings out of 5 that attended. And for anyone else that was there, Doom did tell me some people's names. I did forget to reach out. Just we got to state that for the record in the beginning.
Well,
it was not
no,
intentional.
Bien
And there was a little bit of a
asked me to reach
miscommunication.
Bien asked me to
Yeah.
reach out, and I thought I misread it and thought he was gonna. It was my bad, Jason, Lev, and Abda. My bad, man.
No. But if people like this, and let's say this, if they want to hear from those 3, let us know in the comments, and I'll reach out, and then maybe we can get a part 2 on it. But let's start with, first and foremost, we will go ladies first today. Platt, why don't you give us a breakdown on what was the experience like? How was the meeting set up? Because that's something that really hasn't been, I think, explained well. I don't think people really understand the gravity of how different this meeting was this time around compared to the first time around, on at least how it appeared to be maybe the seriousness on which the COD team / the dev team took it.
Yeah. And I had just joined King's Chat when they had the first meeting, so I was not actually at it. But I certainly heard the blowback afterwards. And I had contributed some feedback in terms of questions at that point. This one, what they offered us was the opportunity to give them a list of questions, pre-formatted questions that we came up with ahead of time, to submit to them to have prepared answers for us. And then we would have the format was supposed to be an hour for those questions and their responses, and then an hour of open Q&A. What ended up happening was, as we went through each of the questions with their kind of pre-done responses to us, they had a slide deck set up. They allowed us to give feedback during them. They got back to us with individual points. There was a lot of representatives from each of the dev teams in the room at the time. So it felt like they really were trying to listen and hear our feedback and take it seriously, which was not necessarily the feeling last time, or any of the Q&As we've done in writing in the interim. This felt much more like they were taking our feedback seriously, listening to us, trying to hear what the problems were, and at least hear our suggestions for the solutions. I know Doom was at the first one, so he could probably speak more to that one than I can.
Yeah, so it started out kind of like the last one in a way. Like we had those negative feelings going into it, but then the way they conducted the meeting this time was completely different than the first time. But we did go through the 2 hardest topics first. So, and we didn't necessarily go over or get everything we wanted out of that, so we were kind of negative. But then we started going to the other stuff, and they would say, hold on, we're going to talk about it real quick. And then like 5 minutes later, we're just talking with Leo, back and forth about football teams. And they would just come back in and they would say, okay, hey, we're going to do that, or we're going to look into that and do something like that. And we're just kind of like, what, really? Like,
Yeah,
really? Like
yeah.
that? Just like that?
That's all it took?
Yeah, it they were listening. I kind of feel like the devs are, there's certain things that they're being told to make in the game by the owners of the game. So like they have certain things they just can't do. And we're trying to communicate to them on these things just don't work, right? And they took that feedback, wrote it down, and they tried to work with us, but it's going to take more of these meetings with them, I think. And that's one of the great things that they said they're going to do, because of the success of this meeting, is how it worked. It was how it was done, and it was a success. We feel like they're going to do more. So they didn't really say how often, but they do want to do more of these type of meetings. The first one was a year ago, and the expulsion stuff, that was the hot topic then. They kind of just, like, in the meeting, they kind of, we like, I mean, some pretty big, like, Sod and I think Jason was there, and they kind of just listened to us and just completely ignored us. We didn't feel like we were being listened. They It's like they didn't listen. It's like they had a script. They read off that script, which, it was kind of like that this time, but then they went off script and they had a discussion right there, and they made a decision right there on a lot of things. And yeah, it was a better meeting. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely better.
And just to expand on that for some clarity for the people listening, the difference in how the COD or dev team was set up the first time around compared to this time around was night and day, from the amount
Definitely.
of people from their team that were attending, how they were listening, how they had quite a few people that were passionate, from my understanding. Uh, Platt, can you explain that?
They had so they had, oh gosh, 7, 8, 9 people in the room. And they introduced each one of them. This was the head of this team. This was the person representing this team. They had all of the teams of developers, so combat and map design, and all of these different teams were represented in that room. Um, and it felt like this time they had been given the authority to I don't want to negotiate isn't the right word, but to actually make changes.
Mm.
They had people at the right level to be able to hear our feedback, talk, and actually make decisions. And I think that was maybe not the case the first time, that they didn't come in prepared to make changes based on feedback. And this time it felt more like they came in ready to hear us and make changes where they could, and had the authority to do so.
Yeah, some
So
things
we
you could tell they didn't have the authority to change, but some things they
right.
did, and they did those changes they already put in the Q&A notes that they released.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to clarify a bit more, you could see them, like they were on video
Oh
essentially,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
you could see them, yeah, with them listening in. And and again, compared to the first time, which from what I understand, it was mainly just a text-based communication.
Yeah, I think there was a camera, but it wasn't like that. Like in this one, it was like a lobby room, like
Mm.
where
Yeah, like a
like a
conference
break.
room setup kind of in a
Yeah,
sense.
not
Yeah.
well, no,
Yeah.
it didn't have a middle table. It
Mm.
was like you would go to relax, and they all had their little notepads. They were all writing stuff down. All
Oh,
of them
interesting.
were
Okay,
writing.
so there was a
Yeah.
level of diligence that they were taking
Oh
on
yeah.
their end as far as how they wanted to kind of note take, as you're saying.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Wow.
And they took the notes that I had taken and went through them and gave comments, and so yeah, there was definitely a level of diligence and
yeah.
engagement with the whole process.
Almost preparedness on their
Well, they
part.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they had this giant question sheet that we submitted to them, so they had time to go through everything. It was a great way to kind of like, you know, address a lot of the questions we were going to ask anyway. So I don't. That was that. At first, I was a little skeptical of the preliminary questions because I thought they weren't going to let us talk. I thought they were. I thought we had to give our feedback in the form of a question, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that at all. It was a lot different.
We all went in pretty skeptical.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
Very skeptical.
That's what I've been hearing. It almost seems as though sometimes the level of priority that something is being given can almost be visually displayed and reinforced from
Yes.
the difference, right? When you can see someone and see how prepared or not they are versus having something that mainly is like, via text, or maybe, as you said the first time around, maybe the camera was just pointed at one person, or if it was like a chair and like they'd rotate sitting in or whatever, but you being able to see the room of them and the attentiveness that they were engaged with, and the fact that you noted that they had a notepad or something to write on or a laptop and they're looking up and down, right? Kind of indicating that they're listening and they're writing things down as well. It just, I guess, and that's really what I wanted to hit on, right? Is the explanations you're providing. It very much feels like there was, I guess, a level of prudence that they were taking with the attention to detail. And I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to probably argue that this might have been maybe the best Kings Queens Q&A roundtable, just maybe that they've done, where it's felt maybe the most personal and impactful from how you all as community members, what you got out of it.
Yeah, and I definitely it's definitely the best like voice meeting one. This is the second
Yeah.
one. But I did, Bien, if you don't mind, I did want to touch on like how like we came to the questions we submitted
Yeah.
to them, because that's really important, because everybody in the CallofDragons community, they may not understand what the legendary king group is like, what's going on in there, and how we came to our like questions, right? So, I represent 110, but in this format, they made us pick 5 kings or queens to come to this meeting, and we all voted, and it was us 5. But we made a pact, the 5 of us. We had like a meeting. What was it? Probably like a couple days before, and we would take all the feedback that the kings and queens kind of submitted, and there was a lot. And we only took the most common, reoccurring, the big things like the bastions and the decorations and balancing and stuff. So, and we took all of their ideas, and we tried to create the most common denominator of all of them, and that's what we submitted. We were representing all of the community, not just our own. Um, you know, Jason made a really cool comment. Everybody knows that guy is a whale, right? He spends a lot of money, but he said a comment in our meeting like, I'm representing the mid spenders. That's what I care about. I want to, he actually, he's Jason, right? But he actually cared. We all are very concerned about our game right now, and especially with some big alliances disbanding. So, like, to us in this roundtable, we took this very seriously, and I just want everybody to understand that we're fighting for everybody, not just our own kingdoms here. So,
Yeah.
and I
We
think
were not representing our own kingdoms. We were representing all the kings and all the kingdoms, and we were very clear that was our goal.
Yep, all the questions were we submitted together. So, we're unified in this, as best we can. Not everybody agrees on everything, and that's okay. And it's not, but in these things, we all kind of had a consensus on that we asked.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think one of you had told me at one point that, given all 5 of you had agreed, it helped with there not necessarily kind of being the situation of kind of anyone going Lone Ranger and like free for alling it, where it's like, okay, now I just want to go and ask all my personal stuff, so to speak, right? It was more of, hey, let's collect all the feedback that everyone's provided, let's summarize, let's filter, and then let's present everything as a unified front together. And everyone individually can, still expand on what they would like to, but obviously within the confines of the collective feedback that was being provided for each point, right? So nobody was kind of going off and all of a sudden saying, listen, man, I just want cosmetic skins for my T5 troops. Like, that's it. Like, no one was really just kind of, yeah, nobody was,
Right, right.
hitting you guys with some personal like add-ins. And so I think that's really important to know, which is, again, expanding on what you were saying, where it very much was kind of a kumbaya moment of, everyone has to maybe make a little bit of a sacrifice, but it's obviously for a greater good.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was basically like that. We all came together. We're trying to get change so that people stop quitting. We all have put a lot of time, money into this game. But there's a lot of investment from a lot of the leaderships, and I know that. I don't like alliances disbanding. It's really bad for the game. People quit, and we have a smaller game, and it's not good, and we want to change that, but it's going to take time. And these guys, they're trying on their side, but we have a long way to go still on some of this stuff, but we're going to keep trying. The Kings group, it's going to keep trying. It probably won't be me next time, because I'm let somebody else go, but
Right.
we're all talking, right? We're all talking, we're all trying to do the best we can. So that's all I wanted to say on that is, we're trying.
And I think it's remarkable that for the most part, there's people who want specific things for them, but on the big issues, every kingdom, every king, with very rare exceptions, all pretty much agree. Like, we all see the issues with bastions, we all see the issues with decorations, we all see the issues with bad matchmaking. It's every king, from the ones who have very tiny kingdoms to the Kraken, are saying the exact same things. There wasn't really much disagreement, even in the general King's chat, about what was important and why. It was there wasn't a whole lot of personal agenda to worry about to begin with, and I think most of us get along just fine, even when we're fighting one another. So I think I've fought with or against everyone who was in that meeting. So, and with and against a couple of them. So it was kind of a kumbaya.
It's on that note, it's very interesting when, you're maybe doing like diplomacy discussions with people and you're sitting across the table from them, and you can get one version of someone, but then it's like, you get into like a one-on-one call or like a VC or maybe like a group VC with friends. It's like, okay, now I'm kind of getting the other side of this person. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I'm sure you all have had it, because I know I've had those experiences where even during my time in Rock and Infinity Kingdom, you're doing some KVK stuff, and if it's Diplo or you're having conversations, or even if you're just looking at someone typing in world chat and you're like, man, that's a pretty outgoing R5 there, but then all of a sudden you hop into a VC and it's like, man, cool as a cucumber. And it's sometimes just that different environment can bring out either the best or a different side of someone.
Yeah. There's no, in the King chat, we're there. We're not there to, even if they're opponents. I mean, we're not there for that. We're there to help improve the game, and I think everybody is on board with that in that group.
Exactly. I mean, like this season, Abda and I were on opposite sides. He was the opposing A kingdom. So, I mean, but it didn't matter. We had the same issues and the same concerns. So yeah, I mean, it was very pleasant. Kind of. It is not as spicy as people seem to think.
Yeah, it's just like riddled. Yeah, and I will say, I feel, at least from an outsider looking in, and hearing about things that go down, you don't typically hear about, anything kind of drama related or something that was like hot and spicy, or, someone had like a massive outburst. Like, you don't typically hear about that happening in King's Chat. Maybe
No.
maybe very rare occasional thing you'll hear, but nothing to that extent, and or even on any consistent basis ever since, it was pretty much formed, from at least what I can recall. So if that adds anything to it, it's nice to hear that most people are approaching being involved in that group with good intentions.
Yeah, it's a pretty friendly group on the whole.
All right. Let's get into a couple of these topics here. Now, the way I would kind of like to do this, maybe now that I'm really thinking about it, is I'd like to know, like, what was the full ask? So, like, if you guys could have it ideally set up the way you wanted, or the way you would have liked for it to be, versus what their response was. And we'll rotate this as well. So, Platt, why don't you start us off? Let's go Bastions first. What was ideally the
Yes.
full ask from the team compared to what you got? And then your thoughts on that.
So the word for word, the question we sent them was, what are the plans to deal with bastions? The community has requested the removal of Make Way, reduced number of bastions, and reduced burn time for them for more than a year. No one enjoys multi-hour rallies repeated every hour for days. It puts a heavy burden on a handful of rally and garrison leads and makes for highly unbalanced KVKs. They need to be killable in a reasonable period of time. Currently, they kill open field fights and have had far too much impact. And then we made suggestions like decrease the health, decrease the burn time and number, decrease troop count in the garrison, limit the number of reinforcing legions from each person. So you can't have a handful of people maintain a garrison, and increase. And then we said, increasing the circle around the bastions into which a city could transport was good. So that was what we pre-sent them for them to respond to us, and their response, they agreed to look at things, and their response really was that they were behaving in an unintended way. And people keep mentioning the make way skill, but they felt like it was a deeper problem, both with the balance of different troop types. That right now infantry is has been the only viable option for rally and garrison. And the pacing was too long. They're too easy to defend. So they were going to increase the burn rate, shorten the repair intervals, have the burn time, and then see how the changes to fair fight impact whether or not people are using other things in rally and garrison, and adjust from there.
And your
We also
thoughts
talked
on
about
if that was
things.
enough?
I don't think it was enough. Personally, no. I don't think it was enough. I think
What
it
what
has
would
been
have
an
been
issue
enough?
for long enough.
Everything, or if they maybe met you 50% of the way? Like, what would have been bare minimum acceptable, or if it was just no, it needed to be a full send?
I think make way has to be out
Okay.
for them to be functional. I think it's too easy to. There's no counter to that. And if people can blink into the circle, it doesn't matter if you can put them. It does
It
that
saves them
doesn't
time. That's
stop the
true.
issue of having a handful of people able to keep a bastion going indefinitely. I think I think I agree that they didn't want to push them too far the other way. I think it has been an issue for long enough that at least the folks I am regularly talking to would almost prefer having them go the opposite way and have to, do tiny incremental changes to bring them back to where they were intended, instead of continue to have them bottleneck entire gameplay for days, because it's extraordinarily boring gameplay. there's nothing fun about that. There's just nothing fun about it. Race to a choke point, throw down a bastion, and then spend days staring at it is not fun. So at least I think that was this, and this was one of the first questions they addressed. So I think that was why we were all slightly spicy at the beginning, because we didn't feel like they were really making enough of a change, and I'm not sure they were empowered to make enough of a change. That was kind of my was that they had come in with the decision that they wanted to make incremental changes, and they didn't really have the power to change that.
Yeah. Either that, or maybe they needed to take it to someone higher up or have further conversation and debate about it.
Yeah, and I think it felt like they really are hoping that the changes to rally to the fair fight, so that other rally types will be hopefully viable, was going to make the difference. I don't think it changes fundamentally some of the fundamental issues with it, which is, they're really boring gameplay, but it might help. So hopefully, but they seemed open to reassessing more frequently than they have been willing to.
Yeah, they mentioned multiple topics that cover. They want to take the baby step route, and then adjust from there. We suggested other things too with the bastions, and they wrote it down, so they have the concepts down. But obviously, it's too early to really put that in a note somewhere. But we talked about increasing the rate of battle acceleration, which they did kind of put it in one of their notes. I think that is getting improved. They like that. They mentioned they do not like how long the fights are taking, and that's not what's intended. That's not what they want.
Doom, did they ever specifically clarify on what their true intent was, or what the original intent was
for bastions?
Yeah.
We didn't really ask. I don't think we. I know that they, and not in this Q&A, but there was a comment made in a one before. I mean, it's used as a building to like for during downtime to stall, like so that people can have time to get on and defend and stuff. But and that's fine. But the issue is, it takes so long to get through it anyway. And that's what we were trying to get them to understand is once bastions go down, the fight's over.
Yeah.
And I talked to them about how the rally lead never can die. Which, and they're kind of explained. I kind of suggested maybe it could die.
And explain that for the average viewer.
Okay, so right now, Garrison, right? It can die. Your Garrison captain can die, so you have to switch them out. Every time you switch them out, it costs 10 stamina, right? So rallies, you just set the rally, and as long as you keep it reinforced, the rally captain can never die. And it can just sit there for going on and on and on, and all you have to do is fill the rally. Well, I know it's kind of an issue, because
which specifically is it's not using stamina.
Right.
Yes.
It only used the stamina the one time, and that's a problem. That's a problem. But once I brought up that, they wrote it down. And they're like, okay, yeah, I see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything from changes on it, but I think they did write it down, and they're going to look into it.
Yeah.
So
and the larger impact there is that if the benefit is on the offensive player who's not having to drain stamina, it means that they're able to have more overall legions be sent out and to utilize those heroes as well, versus potentially those on defense getting drained a little bit more. Even if it's not, egregiously massive, it's still more than what's happening on offense.
Well, it's going to be even more now because the battle acceleration is increasing. So you're going to be
switching that. But I just mean before, but understood.
And most kingdoms don't have 5, 6, 7 garrison captains. You have 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So you don't have an infinite selection of garrisons
So in that
that
case,
people have maxed
basically,
out.
those maybe handful of players are getting, because the stamina usage on defense isn't being spread out against enough people. They're probably getting drained relatively quickly then, or faster than they probably would like.
Yes,
Okay.
much faster.
Okay. I guess the other challenge here as well is that we're not going to see the burn rate update until the next update at the earliest, which is 0.45 that they stated.
Yes.
So the challenge there is that if 0.45 doesn't come out before this upcoming KVK, which it most likely won't, right? Because 0.44 came out on, what was it, the 19th or 18th of December, so that's what, 8 days ago that it went live. So you're probably going to average another month, which means that maybe the update will help for like zone 3 or final zone, right, of the upcoming KVK, which maybe that's better than nothing on the Bastion side. Absolutely for the final zone. It most likely will probably end up at least hitting that, probably zone 3 as well, just depending on the dates. But then, so I guess it's not the end of the world for that, compared to if, you had to wait essentially a whole new season before the burn rate was impacted. But I guess to conclude on that, Doom, similar to what I asked Platt, do you think it's enough, or from what they've added in, or no, it should have been more?
It's a start. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
When we get to the end of this the stream about like kind of like what I think of these meetings, I'll kind of suggest what I think we need to do going forward with these meetings to really focus on some key areas like bastions. So it's not enough yet, but I think we're it's a start. We're on the right track. You're not going to get everything at one time. It just doesn't work that way. You got to be patient. We just got to keep working with them.
Yeah.
Get stuff that they're okay with and stuff we're okay with. And I think eventually we will get there. But make way has to go. It has to.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
So
Okay.
and they're not wanting to. They said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Platty, but they said they're not going to touch Make Way until they see the effects of these new changes, and then they'll revisit Make Way. So next meeting, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about so let's move to number 2 here. What about decorations?
Dear Lord,
Platt, if you want to intro us.
So we asked very specifically about the difference between the premium legendary decorations that give better stats, the junk legendary. I don't even know what to call them. The ones that should not be legendary,
Lower tier.
and the lower tier, and the ones that are accessible and were accessible at the time to free to play. And we made the point that it's especially when you add in SVIP and exemplars, and the fact that those big spend accounts already have all the heroes, all the artifacts, all the good pets, and all of that. You've essentially added more than a full tier difference between low spend free to play and those very high spenders. It is a massive stat difference across the board when you have all of those pieces added in. And this was before the update that put universal tokens into the merit store. But when it debuted, it was going to take, I'd have to pull up my numbers. It was going to be like 19 years to max the lesser decorations if you were fully free to play, with no access to the better decorations, which meant effectively lower spend and free to play players were permanently locked a tier below the high spenders.
Yeah, at like a fixed stat cap for that.
Yeah, at a fixed stat cap that they were never ever going to have any way to achieve. And they said that we suggested adding them to dailies, weeklies, monthlies, the VIP store, and that all the legendary decorations should have the same stats. I have not had a chance to do the calculations with things with the universal tokens being added to the merit store, but we're still looking at an awfully long path. They said their goal was 7 months for a lower spend to be able to max, or free to play to max, the lesser legendary decorations. I don't, to quote my students, I don't think the math is mathing. The math does not seem to be mathing here, unless they are adding more things that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
It's but they did hear us, and I'm hoping that once we can show them the numbers with what they have added in and how it is still very different, we would like to run some rallies against a bastion with decorations in place, without decorations, just to show the difference. With going against an account with every, even with SVIP versus a free to play, and do some very controlled rallies with the exact same rally, exact same garrison, with the only difference being decorations there or not, to show how much of a difference it makes in game. It's not just people feel like it's not fair. It's that it's very much not fair. So those things are still kind of in the works. They were listening. I think they realized how angry the community was on that issue. But they really let it go far too long to back it up. And they said that they were adding monthlies and weeklies, as well as the Grimoire Wish, to go live in January. Although from when they said it in the meeting, I understood that to be it was being added to the monthlies and the weekly, like the regular monthly and weekly bundle that everybody gets. And what went into the notes that they posted sounded more like an additional bundle, which is not quite as awesome. But they were definitely listening. I still think, and I think all of us felt like the lower tier legendary decorations were kind of a scam. It just
Well, I think if you compare it to something that I think maybe a wider base of people can understand, it would be equivalent to like if they had a low and a high tier legendary hero, right? It's like you're just making this
Yeah.
unnecessary sub tier within legendaries, but they don't do that, right? It's epic and then legendary. So you would think that they would just follow what is already established in the game and just utilize that if they were even to do that at all. And I mean, just imagine how upset people would be if they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to bring in low tier legendary heroes now."
Yeah. Yeah, there's I mean that's part of the argument with people fighting to have better stuff in the gold chests and the newer heroes, because those early heroes are effectively a lower tier legendary, and so that's what this feels like, only an even bigger difference, because those lower tier don't have the damage boost. They don't have anywhere near the attack and or defense boost. It's just not. They are not equivalent, and players don't realize that. The average player isn't paying that much attention to the numbers, and so they may be actually using their universal tokens on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that they suggested in the meeting was what they wanted the lower spenders to be able to pick maybe one of the premium ones or two or three premium ones and like customize how they spend their tokens. And when they said that, and then spend the other ones on like the cheaper legendary ones. And that just told me they don't understand
Yeah.
the
Like,
difference.
Yeah.
like to be fair,
of
nobody wants to do that. Everyone wants to
Yeah.
max. It's just,
Yep.
even if you're free to
Well,
play.
you have to.
Just,
You have
Yep.
to.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they are also
Listen, is it
missing that.
hot? Is this a hot take to essentially just say that even if you're free to play, every single player in the game wants legendary artifacts? They want S tier, S attribute tier pets. They want S tier legendary, or sorry, legend. They want legendary heroes, right? They want legendary,
course.
like that's what you want to be able to access, the best of the best. You don't want to access anything lower than what is equivalent to the best, regardless if you spend or you don't.
Yeah. If
It's
you
a
don't
it's a
spend, it
waste of
just
your
takes
time.
longer.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, like what is wrong with having a very active player in the game that's mostly free or free to play? I mean, and then just taking, you know, as long as it takes maybe to get to T5 from T4 or something. You know, it's like it's a long time. It's almost 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
that's real. I mean, that sounds like a long time, but that's realistic. That's a lot better than 19 years. And you know, it's not like you're going from level 1 to level 10. You're going to be boosting along the way. So you feel like you're gaining, you know, you don't feel like you're just you know, there's a giant mountain in front of you, and on the top of that mountain is all the whales that drop 10 grand to go get it, you know, and you're just sitting down there with nothing, you know, and that's really
Permanently.
why that's really what
Mhm.
people are turned off, is because it's like, well, what am I supposed to do now? You know, and it's going to be impossible to even play against any of these people. They're just going to run me over, and
Yeah.
it it's not they can't even work on it. That's the problem. And for the meeting, right? Like we needed more time on decorations because we just couldn't it's getting them to understand that part of the difference. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
The lesser legendaries, they just don't work. You know, but that's gonna take more meetings. We're gonna try. We need more time with them on the decorations. We are not giving up on the
No.
decoration thing. We are gonna keep fighting.
And
And we will
and
bring
if it
them hard
helps,
data.
well, yeah, if it helps, I'll add some data to that because I'm planning to poll um, and include it in my next like top free to play list for.
Yes.
I'm going to include, which again is a little bit more of a manual way to do it because I have to get screenshots from all the free to play peeps. But I'm going to do it where they tell me like how far are they with decorations, how far are they with like how many maxed out legendary heroes they have, how many maxed out artifacts do they have, what's their best war pet. Like try to get some more of that data so I can show people like this is what's attainable. Like this is how long these people have been playing and what they've been able to get. Because I think when you start to understand that and you can see what the numbers are from for the wider community, then they'll start to understand. Because right now, unless you are a pure free to play where you spent nothing, and you're just to yourself, you only know really what your stuff is and how long your stuff has taken you. But you don't necessarily know if, well, is that the fastest or am I doing it the fastest and everyone else is slower? Is that also factored into my circumstances and the kingdom I'm in and the alliance I'm in and maybe how many gifts are purchased, etc. And so for me, my thought is like, man, let's at least be a little transparent, right? Spread some awareness out there on how long is it really taking these free to play players to get, and also to ask them what their thoughts are on some of these things. It's one of the other things that I was talking about wanting to do was to kind of poll and get the free to play community's feedback for the top players there and ask them like how do decorations make you feel? Even though I feel like we probably already know the answer, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
being able to hear it from their words, I think is important. So if anything, hopefully
Yeah.
I'll be able to add some of that data to you guys. So I can at least.
And
put that
I
out there.
think the other piece is that their main route to getting the decorations now is Merit Store, which is also their main route to upgrading their pets and the main route to getting enough elixir to be able to stay in a fight. And the bigger that difference is between those top players and those bottom players, because matchmaking sucks. And I mean, on no planet should RK have been thrown against Echo, EIS, NTS, BX7. We've been thrown at all of the big kingdoms. So we know how hard it is to get merits when you're already fighting before decorations and before SVIP. So now you're in a situation where it's even harder for them to get merits. It was already hard for them to get merits. And all of the things that the gatekeeper for them to get any of those things to improve their account is merits.
Okay, check this out. I have the best parallel. You're gonna love this. Both of you will. It's like they went from one gatekeeping method to a different gatekeeping method. Why? Because everyone knows that a free to play player can essentially, on average, fight the least out of anyone who spends money. So it's like if you're putting this in the merit store, which requires these people to fight, and you understand that they fight the least, or at least have the lowest potential for merit accumulation out of anyone who spends, then aren't you effectively kind of soft to hardish capping them, just in a different way, where you're just making
Yeah.
it that much more? If you understand, and again, I don't know if I'm articulating it that well, but like, if you understand where I'm coming from, like, to me, it makes sense on what, compared to if they came out with like a separate event, and maybe it was something like time, like it was grindy, like you had to grind for an event and put some time into it, and then you were able to get these things out of it that way, right? And then that would favor them a little bit more, because they could invest some time in and maybe get some more of those, upper tier legendary optional or choice chests for decorations, as an example. But to me, it feels like they've gone from one kind of gatekeeping method just to a different kind of gatekeeping method, but they're kind of packaging it. It's almost like it's Christmas and they're packaging it up so it looks like a nice present, but then you open it and you're like, man, I feel like it's still coal, but all they did was clean the coal up a little bit. Like, that's how it feels
Yeah,
to
they
me.
put a bow on the cowl.
Yeah. They put a pretty bow on the coal, maybe.
And my low, because RK is mostly low spend free to play, probably 90% low spend free to play. And my players are very clear that they just got handed coal.
Oh, okay.
They are, and it may be that they have a large community to compare with who are, in the same boat, but they're very clear that they just got handed coal, and they were already struggling to buy those good pet cards and everything. And so now there's yet another big thing.
This is a huge
And
thing. Like, this
yeah,
is
it's
not
huge.
exemplar, which is
Yeah.
big, but it's this. You add up all the post T5 whale pay to win things, and you combine them all. The decorations are
They're
more than
huge.
that.
Oh yeah, by a lot. It's massive. It's a tier level difference. So yeah, they know and especially for a lot of them that just hit T5. They've done their time. They finally hit T5. They finally felt like they could really contribute, and they feel like they just got chucked down to the bottom again, and they don't have a path. It's no longer a grind there. There is no realistic path for them to get this thing.
Yeah, and we're not saying take away, right? Like, if you want to pay that much money, I mean, that's the way this game is. It's always been that way. You want to pay that much money to get it, you get it. But we need ways, for the lower spenders, even free to plays over time, to get. They'll never catch up because something new will always
No.
come out, but they'll be able to sort of close that gap a little bit, so that somebody's not doing 20% more damage than you, plus the exemplar 5%, SVIP, all and max artifacts and everything. Everything a whale will have. Versus the player, that even the mid spender player, it's getting to the point where, like, I mean, there's nothing they can do.
No.
And we can go on and on about this, but in the meeting, we're talking about the meeting here, right? We feel like they just don't understand this part yet, and
Yeah.
it's going to take another meeting, and this meeting needs to be only about decorations. We need to have the entire time that they allow us to talk about this and get these things fixed. And that's what I'm going to be asking for the next meeting. Is I even think decorations are more important than bastions right now, because
Yeah.
like, bastions are really important, but we got some changes. These decorations, we got some blueprints that are coming out in some areas, and they said they were open to adding more to other free to play avenues, but they want to do the baby step thing again. And I just don't think they realize how serious these decorations are to the stability and health of the game. They need to do something more drastic now to fix this.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they have 7 months to
no.
to
Yeah.
They don't have it.
Platy, you were saying that when we talked before, that you're like, it's not really 7 months. It's probably like 7 days.
Yeah. When it first, that was what I wrote in King's chat when they first came out,
Oh,
was they don't have months to fix this. They have, because the feedback we kept getting was, well, they'll look at it, we'll get back to you. I'm like, you're not hearing me. I have people saying this is it. They're out after this season already. You don't have time to futz around with this. You don't have time to baby step it. This needs to get fixed really fast, or this massive, you know, the game, yes,
do
the game
do
makes its money off of the Kraken, but if the
oh.
Kraken have nobody to play with, the Kraken go, and they're gonna have nobody to play with.
Do you at all think that and Doom, I'll come to you first for this one. Do you at all think that the recent, what has very much felt like a snowballing effect that is occurring with members of leadership quitting kingdoms, disbands happening, even maybe more loosely rebuilds? Do you think any of that is connected to
Yes.
decorations?
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
It is.
Yes.
It is not just. This is just like the final thing. Like it's been a culmination of things, right? But this, like, 'cause you got to think, like, when players quit. I mean, I've been with my community for a very long time, and I've had people quit that I've known for like a long time, and people I enjoy playing with, and they're just like, you know what, I'm done, and for leadership, like we're not here to do this. Most of us aren't anyway, because we feel good about doing it. Like, oh, we're in charge. Like we're cool. No, we do it for our communities to make a successful, fun, experience for everybody. But when our friends are gone, like you kind of lose that draw to play the game. So like a lot of leaderships are just getting burned out,
Oh
and
yeah.
I don't think they get it. Like, the leaderships in this game getting burned out is a huge red flag for your game health. Like, they're the ones that get these giant fights going, all these big KVKs going and making it like look good, and people are spending and they're getting because they want to be competitive. I mean, look at Row League, like that was huge and super competitive, and we'll probably get to that in a minute when we get to that topic, but like like they just don't get it, and they don't understand like how we're starting to go downhill, and we're going to hit that point of no return, and we need some very quick turnaround, especially on decorations, more so than they have. It has to have, like, I honestly give it another season. Like this season is kind of like the maps are old that we get to choose from. This is like a blah season, but I understand they can't just fix everything right away. They probably need a few months. So the next they're this next patch coming out and the patch after that. I mean, they've really got to turn it around for next season, and they've got this new map stuff coming out. They released with the whole in April or whatever, with the whole like city thing that they mentioned in the Q&A. Like
Yeah.
they showed us a little more in the meeting, and I'm not sure what I can say, so I'm not gonna say much more. But other than like it's gonna be really cool. Like those concepts are gonna be amazing, but they've got to fix these core issues in the game, or nobody's gonna be around to play it. It's
Yeah.
like
I've had people who've been here since early beta. Kingdom, we haven't moved. Kingdom 3 is early beta. Who 7 of them in the last week decided to quit. And like decorations were not the straw that broke the camel's back. It was like the entire freaking hay barn. It was the last
That's an apt description.
after I mean, people are like, oh, it's the last straw. It's like that's not a straw. That's way bigger than a straw. But there was already a hay barn worth of straws that had landed. Terrible map design, bad matchmaking over and over and over again. This last season was a flaming train wreck. And on all levels, not addressing bastions, not addressing player feedback. This was a very hopeful meeting. I'm very worried that it was a year too late.
Mm.
Definitely was.
As in, it almost sounds that the way you guys describe it was that it was more of a reactive versus a proactive response and approach from them, where it's like, okay, the heat's coming, we got to do something, and it has to be public, almost kind of like you're in PR salvaging, right? It's like PR crisis mode, so to speak.
Yes.
Compared to if
Yes.
they were proactive about it and getting ahead of it before any of that, and we're like, okay, we just introduced this thing. Like they let all the kings know, listen, we're introducing this, but we absolutely want feedback from you guys right away, and we're going to set up a meeting after this upcoming season, and we want to hear what happened. Now, I don't recall anything like that happening, but I guess that would be an example of something where the moment that there was any skepticism, or the moment that there was any potential worry on this maybe not being utilized as intended, getting ahead of it instead of, okay, we're waiting. Now it's like, the fire is starting a little bit, or it's maybe full blown in their eyes, depending on how they view it, and now it's like, okay, we got to do something that's public and flashy, so the community knows that we're making an effort. And I guess that's kind of regardless if that's their intent or not, the point is that objectively, from a viewer looking on the outside in, it can be seen as reactive and not proactive.
Yes, it
Yes.
definitely is reactive. But if as long as they're willing to work with us,
Yeah.
the community, I think we should be able to work with them. We're not going to get everything we want, but they need to understand that like almost all the players do not like this feature and how it's implemented. You need to change it, and
Yeah.
we can't do baby steps for this because people are quitting. I would honestly like to know how many people have actually quit amongst all of the kingdoms, like a number. Like I bet you it's something like 500 at least.
Mm.
And that's a lot for this game.
It's big players.
There's
a lot of
what's funny
a
is
lot
that
of big players.
I could poll like the top 500 strongest players and just DM everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the last hay barn for me.
No.
So that was
Yeah.
I'm out. This was my last season. So, and I'm not a tiny player. I'm 310 million. So, and I'm not the only one. I've been in Echo, I've been in TFS, and a lot of my friends from those places are quitting.
Yeah.
It's not, or are on the we'll give it a season, but we're not spending any more, and we're probably quitting. They're on thinner ice than they realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, they better listen. So otherwise,
That's the thing, man. It's one of those things that, when you're a developer, and this is the last thing, and also this will probably be the last thing, because I know we're almost at about an hour, and you guys know me, I like to try and keep it to about that time. But if people really enjoy this, and they'd like to hear you guys and or anyone else that maybe we can bring in, expand on some of the other topics, we can absolutely do this again as a part 2, or set up something future. But the one thing I wanted to add in is that a lot of to me, again, hearing both of you speak, it brings me back to one of the most important elements of these kinds of games that I have spoken about before, which comes down to player psychology. Understanding how a player thinks, why they think it, what they're willing to do, what they're willing to put up with, not put up with, are things that for the most part, you can really only understand when you are either A, a player, B, you're in management, or C, you speak to these players on a regular basis, and you listen, and you know what questions to ask. Because to me, that's what I feel could be at least one common denominator that connects what both of you have been saying this entire time. Is it's really about understanding, and it's very difficult to do that when you don't actively play. And even more than that, you've participated in different areas of a kingdom. And it kind of goes back to this thing I had heard about Coca-Cola, like when Coca-Cola was like first invented, like the original use for it. I think it was Coca-Cola or the bottle or something like that. It was like the original use for it was like different than how it ended up being used now. But I guess the broader point is really for any kind of a product or a service that you put out there, you might have original intentions on how you'd like to see something utilized, but it doesn't always mean that that is how it is going to be utilized by the community kind of once they get their hands on it, because almost everything could kind of be broken down or explained as like, hey, this is a sandbox. They're going to kind of create what they do. You're just providing that sandbox for them. But yeah, if I had to kind of hint at what I think kind of the overarching common denominator here, I think it's understanding players, the community from a player psychology standpoint. And that's such a difficult thing to bridge, kind of as you alluded to, Doom, with needing to have more conversations so you can really break down decorations. But to me, it's understanding that element. And that can be so difficult for a dev team of any game to really understand when you haven't necessarily fully ingratiated yourselves within the game to even know what you need to understand, or not knowing what you don't know, right? Because you're not involved in those certain things. So you're kind of, maybe from their mind, it's like, oh, we're hearing this for the first time. Like, we don't believe that to be the case, or we're maybe hesitant about that, why they kind of mentioned the whole, like, slow changes thing. To me, I just feel like it comes back to player psychology.
Well, and we've had regular text-based Q&As at the end of every season in King's chat. This was the first time I felt like they listened, because like literally right before this meeting, like days before this meeting, we got the response from our most recent one, and I think I summarized it as they read it all and went, "Yep, nope." And that had been like a theme. So this was the first time I think we felt like they were listening.
Yeah.
And hearing, which was huge. And I really, it felt like they finally got that they had been missing stuff, because for the longest time they were asking the right questions. They just weren't, felt like they just weren't listening to the answers. And so I deeply hope that means that this is a real change, and we will see them listening to those answers, because I mean, we've all spent a whole lot of time, energy, and money because we care about the game, obviously. I mean, you don't stick around as R5 for any length of time because you hate the game or you hate the community,
or because you enjoy all the work that is burdened upon you.
Yeah. It's so much fun doing kingdom management. Just
during the holidays.
I mean,
during the holidays.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to spend the first couple hours after they log on just, replying to messages and DMs and reading mails and catching up on any internal happenings before we can actually even send a legion out to go and do something?
Exactly. I have nothing better to do with my time. Seriously, nothing.
Not like continuously grading papers or anything. Something I do in my.
No.
But
so
I highly recommend, though, a part 2, because there's a lot of negative stuff that we went over, which was the 2 biggest things that have negative things. But there's a lot of really good stuff in the next topics.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I highly recommend
a lot of really good stuff.
Do a part 2 and get the other 3 in here.
Well, and while you guys were talking, that was part of what I thought. I was like, okay, look, based on timing, it looks like we're probably going to already be at an hour. If I stop it at the first 2, then that gives me an opportunity to reach out to the others and be like, hey, can we, maybe I'll just add them to the group chat and be like, hey, can we maybe have a conversation, or if you guys are interested in meeting up at a certain time, and then we can cover the other topics as well. And then maybe if they want to chime in on some of those, but at least I felt like this was a good stopping point if we want to be able to cover the rest of the stuff and then get a chance to maybe get the others in if they would like to participate as well.
Yeah, I know Abda's got some, he'll definitely want to talk on the Row League stuff that they talked about in the meeting. So.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
And also because you guys said these were the 2 biggest topics, I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense for us to maybe focus a little bit more on this, which was, to be fair, kind of what I thought it was going to turn into, which it more or less did.
It's all right. They're important.
No, it's okay.
They are. And I mean, it's kind of unfortunate because the rest after this point, it really was a much more hopeful, much better meeting. So it really did improve vastly, and I will give them absolute credit for that. It was a frustrating start, but definitely improved after that.
The optimism didn't start from us until after these 2 points.
Yeah.
Okay. No, absolutely. Listen, I will. Yeah, we'll book it 100%. Last words, as always. Shout outs, declarations, shots you'd like to fire. Platty, start with you.
I'm
Or just closing remarks. That's fine.
Yeah, closing. I think the fact that this happened is a testament to King's Chat working as intended, and I think that's a really positive thing that the community can hold on to. People assume we like all hate each other or something, but we don't, and we actually work together quite well for this. And so I think, yeah, the community leadership at least is in good hands.
All right, thank you. Doom?
So I definitely want to give a shout out. She wasn't able to make the meeting. She was under the weather. But Gloria, the COD staff community manager, is the most amazing person ever. She deserves all the kudos. She takes the very, very, I would say, blunt feedback that we give and communicates it to the devs. And I'm pretty certain the reason why we had this roundtable meeting was because of her. I'm trying to get a hero named after her, an upcoming hero. I'm really trying. Like I suggested that in the meeting.
Oh, that'd be dope.
She is awesome. She is on our side. We can't lose
her. Be kind to her.
Yes, be kind to her.
Be very kind to her.
She is one of the very positive things from this company that we that runs this game. That
almost kind of makes her sound like Asya when she was here.
She's awesome. She's super nice. She she'll get back to you, even if you she always gets back to everybody. I don't know. She's just awesome. So I wanted to give a shout out to her. I also wanted to give a shout out to my in 110 all my people my staff running the kingdom during these holidays, and to all the leaderships out there that are having to deal with this migration, Great Heights debacle with the Alliance mobilization ending, and who gets reward. It's crazy right now, guys, and I know it's a headache, but great job for everybody. You know, you got it done, or you're getting it done. So especially my team, they've been really busy. So happy New Year to everybody. We're not going to give any shots fired at the end. This is not maybe in a different type of video. I have plenty of those to give.
Jesus, guy. Well, thank you.
Not in this one.
All right, touche. Yeah. Well, obviously, a huge thank you from me to close things out. Obviously, for Platty you, and I know this is one of my few conversations that we've had, but it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. And Doom, you're an old dog, no new tricks, but still a lot of love out there. And being able, obviously, for you guys to spend some time with me and to sit down and share your thoughts and feedback, and let people know, because like I said, no one for the most part has really kind of sat down and done a long form discussion on what the experience was like for you all as attendees. And so hopefully the community can listen to this and get a little bit more insight, and hopefully maybe have some things to look forward to, and realize that, even if change might be slow in certain areas and faster in others, there are a lot of good intended people like yourselves and others who want the very best, not only for the community, but for the outcome and longevity of the game. So thank you guys so much, Platty, Doom, for taking some time to sit down with me. And for all of you out there, again, if you'd like for us to continue, do another part, if you'd like for us to include the others as well, if there's any questions that you have that maybe I can pass along to them when we do the next sit down, let us know, along with your thoughts in the comments down below. That's going to be it for us. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.